Tonight, a small town grieving the tragic deaths of 4 students and a teacher. Shock and sorrow in a tight-knit community.
Beyond shocking, devastating.
How the young crash victims are being remembered.
I think everyone would have gotten along with those girls. They were all really kind to everyone.
Preparing for the king.
It's a huge honor, both at a personal level and at a greater level.
What Ottawa is doing to set the stage for an historic speech from the throne as parties outline their priorities. And will Trump's feud with Harvard help Canadian universities?
Very stressful and anxiety-inducing, but just trying to take it day by day.
Plus, dogs with very serious jobs.
To help families and give them a peace of mind, that's something I am really passionate about.
Why handlers traveled from the U.S. to take part in a special search and rescue squad. That's a good boy!
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the shock and sorrow rippling through a small Ontario town. People in Walkerton heavy with grief as they struggle to come to terms with a terrible tragedy, a horrific crash that claimed the lives of 5 beloved members of the community. The devastating loss of a 33-year-old cherished teacher and coach, along with 4 talented student athletes ages 16 and 17. They were all in the same SUV, involved in a collision Friday afternoon near London, Ontario, as they were returning home following a softball tournament. The community coming together tonight for a vigil at the school. CTV's Kamal Kurmali is there in the town of Walkerton. A very emotional evening for everyone, Kamal.
Heather, the sadness and grief was palpable throughout the night. You could really feel the heaviness in the air at this vigil for a teacher and 4 students who passed away tragically in a crash on Friday. You could see friends, family members, students, teachers holding candles, holding each other, sharing words of comfort to each other, openly mourning, something that's been happening all weekend. Throughout the day, young kids and teens dropping off flowers at a growing memorial outside the Walkerton District Community School. Messages of love and loss for the teacher and 4 students killed in a horrific crash Friday. In a small town of around 5,000 people, everyone is connected to the tragedy.
The kids all were friends of my daughter's. They went to school together.
Police have not yet released the names of the victims, but CTV News has confirmed through friends the 4 teenagers killed are Rowan McLeod, Olivia Rourke, Danica Baker, and Cadence Ford. Students say they were star athletes. Keegan Padfield, a student at the school, says the girls left a lasting impression on everyone.
When I first started out in grade 9, they were all really supportive and helping everybody improve.
How would you describe those 4 girls?
I think everyone would have gotten along with those girls. Yeah, they were all really kind to everyone.
The teens were with their teacher, Matt Eckert. His lacrosse team posting this online. He is some of our coach's best friend. His infectious smile and caring heart are things that will never be forgotten.
He was a great teacher. Like, even when, if kids were being not good, he'd get them in trouble, but he'd do it in like a fun way.
Police say the 5 of them had been returning home from a softball tournament when their vehicle collided with a transport truck and then struck another SUV just outside London, Ontario, late Friday afternoon.
This is an unimaginable situation, unfathomable. The grief and the shock.
While the town mourns, signs that they grieve together, shoes left out, porch lights left on, to show that this community will never walk alone.
To share our support with the family and the friends.
And teachers held a meeting today on how to help students deal with this level of tragedy. When classes begin tomorrow, members of a mental health team will be on site throughout the week to help students and teachers. Heather.
Thank you, Kamal. CTV's Kamal Karmali in Walkerton, Ontario tonight. Members of Parliament from across the country are now in Ottawa, where both the Liberals and Conservatives held caucus meetings ahead of a new session this week. As CTV's Jeremy Sharon reports, each will face different challenges.
What's your message to caucus today?
It's all good news.
A day to set the tone and lay out his party's path in Parliament. Prime Minister Mark Carney promises his government will get right to work.
We are going to be very, very busy in the next few weeks. But we are going to be very, very busy in the next few months. We are going to be very, very busy in the next few years. We're going to have to do things previously thought impossible at speeds not seen in generations.
The Liberal Party has been clear, passing a middle-class tax cut and eliminating federal barriers to interprovincial trade will be among their first orders of business.
To seize this moment for Canadians, to build big, to build bold, to build together, to build now.
But also on today's agenda, deciding whether to adopt a Reform Act, a process that would allow Liberal caucus to eject a party leader unwilling to leave.
I have the privilege, I was just elected as the chair of our National Caucus. The Reform Act was voted down.
Good day. Conservative Caucus 2 gathered on Parliament Hill today as leader Pierre Poilievre outlined his party's plan.
And priorities take plans. Our plan, first, we've got to get the cost of living down. And we're going to be demanding a spring budget that reveals the true deficit.
The Liberal Party has promised a budget this fall, but has faced swift criticism for not tabling one sooner.
It's too late. We are ready to work. We have not been in the House for the last 6 months. It's time for us to work on the House, and we will do it as long as the Prime Minister is ready to do it.
But Poilievre today also pledged collaboration to help Canada get a new trade deal and put an end to tariffs.
We will work with the government to help make that happen. I've already told the Prime Minister that we are happy to cooperate any way we can.
Now, whether it's collaboration or opposition, in the House of Commons, it won't be Pierre Poilievre Mark Carney is facing off against. Andrew Scheer will be the leader of the official opposition, at least for the start of this parliamentary session, as the Conservative leader still needs to secure a seat in a by-election. Heather?
CTV's Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. Thank you. The first order of business will be to elect a Speaker of the House of Commons. The list of candidates for election revealed tonight includes 8 MPs. It features the former Speaker of the House during the last sitting, Greg Fergus, former Deputy Speaker Chris D'Entremont, and longtime Liberal MP Rob Oliphant. Parliament will return with a significant event in this country's history when King Charles arrives for the first time since his coronation to read the speech from the throne, the first monarch to do so in nearly 5 decades. The royal visit will showcase all kinds of pomp and circumstance. CTV's Colton Prale takes a look at just one aspect of the preparations.
Of course, there's added pressure because it's His Majesty the King.
This is the culmination of weeks of planning, all in the hopes of making a first impression that meets the moment.
Ultimately, if you feel pressure and feel stressed in situations like this, it's good because you know that you care.
When King Charles walks off the plane at Ottawa International Airport Monday afternoon, it will be the first time Canada welcomes a new monarch to the country in nearly 70 years. And it's up to Sergeant Blair Nash of the Royal Canadian Dragoons to ensure the welcome is worthy of a king.
It's a huge honor, both at a personal level and at a greater level as part of the Royal Canadian Dragoons and the Canadian Armed Forces.
It's part of 2 days of ceremony for the visiting King and Queen that will include a more than 100-person guard of honor, a 21-gun salute, and travel in a carriage drawn by RCMP horses. But much of that pomp and circumstance is reserved for Tuesday. King Charles will usher in a new session of Parliament reading the speech from the throne, the first monarch to do so in nearly 5 decades. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, doing it previously in 1957 and 1977.
I have always been full of admiration for what Canada is.
Now the current monarch's visit will make a mark on history,
underscoring his solidarity with Canadians and his great love for and support for Canada. Just his presence makes that very profound statement.
For Nash, this also marks the continuation of a family tradition. His grandfather was a dragoon and had the honor of welcoming Queen Elizabeth twice.
when he walks down the staircase off the plane, and the rest of my team behind me, it's awesome.
Colton Prale, CTV News, Ottawa.
And we will have special coverage of King Charles' visit to Canada starting tomorrow on CTV News Channel and ctvnews.ca, as well as Tuesday's speech from the throne. Now to the labor dispute at Canada Post and the union representing thousands of postal workers. Talks resumed today amid warnings of mail delivery delays. The union representing workers said it met with a mediator today, presenting its feedback on the Crown Corporation's last offer. Canada Post says it has received the union's response and it will respond in short order. It says the impact of the uncertainty surrounding Canada Post has been significant, with parcel volumes down by 50% last week over the same time last year. There is a troubling new example of the Canada-wide doctor shortage on the minds of parents in British Columbia tonight. Health officials faced with too few physicians are closing the pediatric unit at the largest hospital in the BC interior well into the summer. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson reports.
In one of Canada's fastest growing communities, there simply aren't enough doctors.
As a parent, it's really distressing. So in all of the parent groups, the social media groups that I'm on, my wife's on, everybody's talking about this.
The 10-bed pediatric unit at Kelowna General Hospital will close for at least 6 weeks over what the health authority calls limited physician availability. Pediatricians will be shifted to neonatal intensive care and high-risk deliveries. Families are being told to continue to take their kids to emergency.
I know that Interior Health is working hard to address this, putting in place incentives for locums and for physicians, looking at additional changes to current compensation models, for example, and doing everything they can to attract new pediatricians to the site. We know that one is coming this summer.
We're the fallback for a lot of people from a lot of surrounding communities, and now not only are they seeing loss of service in their own communities, they're seeing loss of service in Kelowna.
It's a problem rippling out across the province. In the small BC town of Lillooet, the emergency room shut down again this week, the 30th temporary closure this year.
It's scary. It's, it's people's lives that we're playing with.
This man had to be rushed by ambulance to a hospital 2 hours away.
I ended up having a throat infection and double pneumonia.
The pediatric ward in Kelowna will close on Monday until at least early July. The latest setback for a healthcare system critics claim is being held together with duct tape. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
U.S. President Donald Trump has agreed to an extension on the 50% tariffs targeting the European Union following a call with EU President Ursula von der Leyen.
We had a very nice call, and I agreed to move it. I believe July 9th would be the date.
Von der Leyen also said she had a good call with Trump and needs until July 9th to reach a good deal. In May, Trump had picked June 1st as the original deadline for the EU tariffs. Donald Trump's feud with Harvard University is leaving international students at the prestigious school very anxious. But as CTV's Alison Bamford reports, Canadian universities are also watching closely, ready to welcome any student caught in the crosshairs.
Very stressful, anxiety-inducing, but just trying to take it day by day.
Canadian John Gobin should be graduating from Harvard Law this time next year. But like thousands of international students, his future at the Ivy League institution is up in the air.
Something like 25% of students at Harvard across the board are international students.
U.S. President Donald Trump has issued an edict to keep Harvard from enrolling international students. It's still being contested, but the move is raising fears while also providing an opening for Canada.
The attack on universities that's going on in the United States creates an opportunity for Canada to step forward.
A much needed opportunity. Canadian universities have been struggling. Last year, Ottawa introduced a cap on international student study permits, along with other immigration changes, including post-graduation work permits.
Canada's brand internationally has been really damaged.
International enrollment has plummeted, sitting below the federal cap. Atlantic universities lost about 3,000 international students last year. 2025 projections aren't much better.
Without the revenue of international students studying in our universities, we don't have the same resources to open the doors for folks born right here at home.
A silver lining for some universities on the East Coast. Anecdotally, the number of U.S. applicants has doubled in the last few months, possibly linked to the lower Canadian dollar and turmoil down south.
Our region in particular has a great reputation for high-quality education.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has said immigration is a priority for his government, and Canadian universities are hopeful Ottawa will move quickly to improve the permit process and invest in research to make the country's schools a top choice around the world. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Coming up, 5 years since George Floyd died in police custody.
I have 2 sons. I'm afraid of what their interactions with the police will be.
What changed after his death sparked a movement? Calls for justice and racial equality rippling out today across the U.S. on the 5th anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. Mourners laid flowers at the Minneapolis Memorial in Floyd's honor, as they have been doing all weekend. George Floyd's death at the hands of police sparked an international outcry for police reform, his family vowing today to continue that fight.
At the end of the day, he was a human being. His life mattered. All our lives matter. People of color lives matter. So let's stick to this movement and stick to the script. We're not going to give up. We're going to continue to fight.
Protests calling for change in George Floyd's name were also held from coast to coast across the U.S. In Ukraine, at least 12 people are dead and dozens injured following a Russian aerial bombardment overnight. Ukrainian authorities say a barrage of more than 350 Russian drones and missiles were aimed at Kyiv and other regions. This is now the largest aerial attack on Kyiv since the war started. And a massive prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine continued today. Despite the deadly attack, 600 prisoners of war were handed over between the two sides. 2,000 prisoners were set to be exchanged over the 3 days. It follows failed ceasefire talks between the two countries earlier this month. Still ahead, a deadly issue in maritime waters. What scientists are doing to tackle a parasite killing oysters and threatening the industry. There is a race to try to solve an urgent problem in the maritime oyster industry. Researchers are desperate to figure out how to protect the shellfish from a parasite that's harmless to humans but deadly to oysters. As CTV's Sarah Plowman tells us, it's already caused devastation on parts of PEI.
Hidden within the ocean are clues to solve a pressing problem: how to tackle a parasite that's killing oysters and threatening the industry.
What we're trying to do is minimize the damage.
Multinucleate sphere unknown, or MSX, is harmless to people but deadly to oysters. The disease already hit the bay where it was first found in PEI last summer hard, and is now widespread across the island and in several spots in New Brunswick. Part of the problem, scientists don't know how the parasite is transmitted. Hatchery manager Martin Millet is part of several projects. One to map the parasite's genetic sequence, another to detect MSX within the environment rather than just the oyster.
So in some cases, we might be able to detect before we see oyster infections.
At this lab in Fredericton, scientists are also trying to sequence MSX's genome, a key missing piece of the puzzle that's never been done.
So it's a challenge. We have accepted it and we will deliver, hopefully.
Thousands of oysters have been tested here for diseases like MSX, where they've combined 3 tests into one.
We'll get 3 hits in one test in a lot quicker turnaround time.
The hope is that research here could help produce a disease-resistant strain, and that would help more oysters survive.
50% resistance after 2 generations. That's kind of like our baseline target. And what we're trying to do is improve on that.
seeking oysters that survived an MSX outbreak.
Well, we can say, okay, great, it survived, let's breed its relative. But we can go one level deeper and say, well, what variants, which genetic variants or what alleles did that oyster carry?
Questions the industry aims to answer, and quickly. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Shippagan, New Brunswick.
Still ahead, real hometown heroes. A look at what it takes to be a search and rescue dog when there's a call to action. We leave you tonight with the skill and dedication of search and rescue dogs and their handlers. An intensive training session in Ontario drawing international pups. And as CTV's Hannah Schmidt shows us, this year it honored a special partnership.
You did so good today. I'm so proud of you.
In the world of search and rescue, it takes trust, timing, and a nose that knows.
That's a good boy.
A small group of dedicated dog handlers from both Canada and the U.S. met in New Hamburg this weekend, training for the high-stakes world of search and cadaver recovery.
This is the third annual training that we've had. We get into obedience. We then get into tracking and air scenting. Depending where the handler wants to go with their dog and how well they're doing with their dog, they can then expand beyond that.
Mando, an 8-month-old golden retriever Siberian husky mix, and Romeo, a 9-week-old Doberman, are two of the pups that trained alongside their handlers this weekend.
I got the pleasure of working with Bill in North Carolina during Hurricane Helene. The thrill of being behind my dog and watching them work is the most amazing thing ever, but definitely not for the faint of heart.
Bolton isn't just a trainer, he's the person that families, organizations, and search groups call when hope hangs in the balance.
Regardless of whatever the outcome is, you still kind of get to help families and give them a peace of mind, and that's something I am really passionate about.
The girls traveled from Pennsylvania and Maryland to take part in Bolton's training seminar. For Bolton, this year's training looked different. It's the first he's led without Sheba, his longtime canine partner and legend in the field, who passed away earlier this year.
It's definitely emotional because she was not just my pet, she was my partner. She literally went everywhere. We trained together, we worked together. I relied on her implicitly.
Now little Cleopatra is at Bolton's side, young, wide-eyed, and already stepping into the paw prints left behind. In every search, every bark, and every new handler trained, Sheba's legacy lives on. And with her successor already learning the ropes, the next chapter is just beginning.
There are times when I really miss Sheba. It's real.
Hannah Schmidt, CTV News, New Hamburg.
That is our newscast for this Sunday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Omar and Sandy will be with you tomorrow, and I'll see you again on Friday. Good night.